Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're in Masechtas Chagigah daf Yud Zayin. We're going to begin on Yud Zayin Amud Aleph by the Mishnah. The Mishnah tells us the Machokas Beis Shammai Oimrim Navin Shlomim that you are allowed to bring a shlomim, says Rashi B'Yom Tov Shehin Achilas Hedjit, because people can eat that. It's not just something which is l'gvoa. However, Beis Hillel Oimrim of lo olos, but you're not allowed to bring a carbon ola because it's only lechem v'loy ligvoa, and therefore you can't bring an ola which is completely consumed in the mizbech. You're allowed to bring shlomim. You can even bring a carbon ola on Yom Tov, and you do smicha, as we saw in the machlokas in the previous Mishnah, whether or not on Yom Tov, even though it's a din shvus, whether or not a person is allowed to do smicha on an animal on Yom Tov, even though it's seemingly you're using the animal. Then the Mishnah says as follows: Atzeres shechol yesber Shabbos, you have Shavuos that falls out on Friday, so therefore you end up having Shavuos, and then immediately after Shavuos you have Shabbos. So Beis Shammai Omrim, he says that Yom Tavuach Achar Shabbos, that because Yom Tov is on a Friday, so therefore the day of the slaughtering is Achar Shabbos, which is on Sunday. However, Beis Hillel Omrim Ein Yom Tavuach Achar Shabbos, you do not have to bring the carbon on Sunday because you could have actually brought it on Yom Tov itself, as he said before. Let's look at Rashi. Rabbi Mavi Olos, as Beis Shammai says. Why? Be'oisin shechel havi la'achar Yom Tov d'chsiv hu levadi yosel lechem l'gvoa. Things that could be brought afterwards because we say lechem l'gvoa. So Yom Tavuach, Rashi says, shel karbanos re'iyah. When it comes to the olos re'iyah, v'chagigah shel Yom Tov, the shalmi chagigah le'achar Shabbos. The ein krivin will be Yom Tov b'Shabbos. He holds you cannot bring this carbon on Shabbos, can't bring it on Yom Tov, so therefore you have to wait till Sunday. However, according to the Beis Hillel, they said no, you can do it because you can be makriv on Yom Tov. Umaydim, however, they agree shimchol yos b'Shabbos. If Shavuos will fall on Shabbos, Shem Tivach Shabbos, then certainly it's not Daicha Shabbos. Beis Hillel does not hold you can be Daicha Shabbos, it can be Daicha Yom Tov, but not Shabbos. Ein Kohen Gadol mis lavish b'keilav. A Kohen Gadol does not wear his Yom Tov clothes. Rashi says beveso, in the house of a shuk. This is talking about when it's not the time of doing the avodah. Sheyom tavuach shel atzeres achar Shabbos. Sheyavinu hakoil she'enoi hayom doiv, that this is not Yom Tov. Mimnei hatzedukim hayoimrim atzeres achar Shabbos. So the whole issue is that Tzedukim would always make Shavuos on a Sunday. So the problem is that if you end up having the carbon brought on Sunday, so we don't want the Kohen Gadol to wear his these fancy clothes, because then they're going to think that really they pushed off Yom Tov Dafka onto Sunday, late at Tzedukim. Matur behesped. And for that reason, we even allow you to have a eulogy of a tinus. Again, to go against the words of the Tzedukim that say it has to be after Shabbos, because it says Mimacharas Shabbos, that the Sfiras Omer, the bringing of the Omer offering, is specifically after Shabbos. So it sounds like Shavuos has to always fall on Sunday. Of course, when we interpret that pasuk, Mimacharas Shabbos doesn't mean Shabbos like the Saturday, but it means the day of rest, which means the first day of Pesach. How do we know that Shavuos, there is a din tashlumin all 7 days? Because of the 3 holidays, so because of these 3 holidays linked, Makash Chag HaShavuos l'Chag HaMatzos. Machag HaMatzos, like Pesach, Yesh Tashlumin Kol Shiva, a person can make up. If he didn't bring the Shalmi Chagigah on the first day, he could bring it on the second, all 7 days. So Av Chag HaShavuos, Yesh Tashlumin Kol Shiva. So too, there was the din tashlumin, even though Shavuos is passed, you still have the 7 days to bring it. Now, ve'ema makash l'Chag HaSukkos. Why do we want to only compare it to Pesach, which is only 7 days? Let's learn it to Sukkot. After all, Ma Chag HaSukkah Yisei Shel Teshuvah Kol Shmoina, Av Chag HaShavuos Yesh Shel Teshuvah Kol Shmoina. So we know that even on Shmini Atzeres, you can bring the carbon as the tashlumin. So let's make it 8 days. So you could maybe say tafasta merubah tafasta. Here the Gemara gives a different answer. The shmini regel with niatzmahu. That you can't learn out from Shmini Atzeres. It's a completely separate holiday. I am Shmini regel with niatzmahu tanimil Indian pazar kashav. The only time we say that Shmini Atzeres is like a separate day is only regarding these 6 matters of pazar kashav. Look on Rashi. Fayis zman regel carbon shear bracha. So Rashi explains. Fayis, the lottery. What does that mean? Indian priyachag. When it comes to bringing the 70 cows, kol shivas yimei chag, all 7 days. Ein moisivin alehin el lafi cheshmin hamishmaros, lafi sidran makriven oisu kin el mestach the sukkah. Misha yemakriv parim hayom lo hayemakriv l'machor or partial shmini mefaisin alav ezu min hamishmaros hakrivu. So. Fine. So basically what happened is, if you think about it, there's 24 mishmaros, so which means if there's 70 karbanos, so every one of them was able to bring 3, with exclusion of 2 parim. So therefore, some would say on Shmini Atzeres they would do a lottery, either completely new lottery, or just for those 2 mishmaros who didn't bring the 3rd. So again, it's a separate lottery system as opposed to the other days. Zman, Rashi says, is the bracha of Shachianu. We know we say Shachianu the last days of Sukkot. We don't on Pesach, the last days of Pesach. Regel sheishlo shem regel of niatzmo ve'enu koi Sukkos. We don't call it Sukkos, call it Shmini Atzeres. Carbon she'ein behemos karbonoisav kaseder priyachag shepriyachag mismat v'hoyachin v'kivsein yudalad b'chol yoim ve'el mishnayim mishmini parachad ayol achad shiva kavasim. So the karbonos are different. We go from 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 10, 9, 7, and then all of a sudden we only bring 1 par. So the order is completely different with karbanos. Shir, ein shir karbonoisav keseder shir shel yemos hachag. It's a different song that's sung in the Beis HaMikdash. And then finally, bracha, shahai mevarchin es hamelech zecher shloimah shnemer bo b'yom hashmini shalach hasam yavarchu es hamelech. There's a special bracha that they blessed the king in honor of remembering Shlomo HaMelech. Looking Taisus over here. David Meis Batzeres. David HaMelech died on Shavuos. And everyone was mourning. And they brought karbanos the next day. From here we see there's a tashlumin that David died. And therefore they couldn't bring karbanos. We know that David actually died on Shabbos. The kasha Rav Elchanan typically belav hachil sakriba berishin kivon shahayis Shabbos kidamashma b'Shabbos perikaman likin the b'Shabbos nifter David, that he actually died on Shabbos. So David Melch died on Shabbos. You can't bring karbanos on Shabbos. The Netziv says, but on an oinain is potter like a chiger, so there'd be no tashlumin. Okay, ein the Meforshim, ein the rest of this Taisus. Okay. Anyway, so the question is, Aval Inyan Tashlumin the Rishon who? The whole Tashlumin is based on the first. Did none. Mishal Chag Miyam Tov Rishon Shulchag Chagigas Kol Haregel V'Yom Tov Acharain. As we see, when it comes to Tashlumin, even though Shmini Atzeres is considered to be a regular b'fnei atzmo regarding Pesach Kashav, it doesn't make any difference. Still, the din is that you can still do Tashlumin on the 8th day. So why don't we say this? You have 8 days of Tashlumin for Shavuos. So the Gemara does say tafasta merubah tafasta tafasta miut tafasta. Again, you didn't want to necessarily start off with a svara. It was trying to derive it based on psukim or other forms of svara. El lamai hilchasa. So then, what do we learn out that kasmi rachman l'chag sukkos? How do we compare? Because I can understand how you're comparing it to Shavuos is compared to Pesach regarding Tashlumin, but how is Shavuos compared to Sukkos? Lakushi l'chag hamatzos, ma chag hamatzos toin lina, av chag Sukkos toin lina. It's connecting that we know that when it comes to Pesach, there is a requirement to stay in Yerushalayim, Moitzi Yom Tov. You can't just leave. Also in Chag Sukkos toin lina, you also need to stay then as well. So how do we know when it comes to Pesach? In fact, that's the din. There's a din lina. As we continue in San Beis, you're supposed to stay there until the morning, and then you can go to your tent. Says Rashi, Shuchol Hamoyed. This is referring to Hamoyed. the ilu be yomtiv tchum aser. So if we're talking about yomtiv, obviously that's not what it's referring to. So it's the yomtiv of the first days, not of the last days. Says Taisus, perish b'chol shamoyed, ibi yomtiv aser mishum tchumim, v'lo yiskin dehatinach Rabbi Kiva Rabbanan Ma'ikal Meimer deleka iser tchum deraisa. So the question is, are tchum deraisa the Rabbanan? So v'yesh mefarshim the yudbeis milin isbehu shapu Rabbanan tchumim v'ach isber Yishalmi yudbeis milin keneged machni Yisrael. So even if you hold that tchum Shabbos is not deraisa, but if you go a very far distance, that certainly is. Okay, Ayin Tosfos. So Tanan, we learned in our Mishnah at Seres, when it comes to Shavuot Shechal Yos Erev Shabbos, it falls on a Friday. Beishami Omrim Yom Tavuach Achar Shabbos. So you bring the karbanos on Sunday. Beis Hillel Omrim Ein La Yom Tavuach. There's no Yom Tavuach. My love Ein La Yom Tavuach Klal. Basically, it sounds like you can't make it up. You can't do it. So lo. There's always says no din tashlumin. Lo she'enu sricha yom tavuach. It just means you don't need a yom tavuach because you could have brought it on yom tav. My kamashmon demakrivinon biyoyme, that you can bring it on the day itself, on yom tav itself. We already learned this somewhere else. Not b'shami armrim mavin shalom v'in seimchnalan avolo oilos b'atil armrim mavin shalom v'oilos v'seimchnalan. This is exactly what the machlokas is, whether or not a person is allowed to bring a carbon ola. So how do we understand this? So maybe the reason why Beis Shammai says this din is because you can always do it tomorrow, so it's no problem. When it comes to Yom Shavuos is on Friday, where you need 2 days, maybe he'll agree to Beis Hillel that we're not going to push it off all the way to Sunday. Maybe the reason why Beis Hillel is leaning if it's on a Friday, and therefore you're not going to push it off because you can't do it on Shabbos. So the question that some ask is, how could we even think in the Havamina that Beis Hillel doesn't hold that there is a concept Tashlumin? But if Shavuos is on Shabbos, Beis Hillel holds there is Tashlumin. So the Marsha in the Siach Yitzchak says that maybe it's only because it's Shabbos. But for any other reason, there's no Tashlumin, or the Turi Evans says the day after only is a Tashlumin, not after that. Okay. Tashma. Mishal Chag Shiva Shemia Pesach, Yishma Shemia Chag, the Yom Tov. Some don't read the word Harishon Shalat Seres because there wasn't a Yom Tov Rishon Achor on the Shavuos. Shuvi the Chagigah. You can't do it anymore. You missed it. It's too late. My love Yom Tov Shalat Seres. So Chayra, it's telling you when it comes to Yom Tov of a Seres, when that goes by completely, you can't make it up. Lo Yom Tavuach. It means if the day which you were supposed to bring it, which was after the Yom Tov, you didn't bring it, that's when you lose out. Yachin Nishmina Dechad Yom Tavuach. So Charetz Mashma is only one makeup day. That's it. Ema Yemei Tavuach, which again there's a din tashlim for 7 days. Tashma the Tani Rabba Bar Shmuel Amr Torah Mani Yom V'Kiddush Chaydish. The Torah says to count days and to sanctify the months. Mani Yom V'Kiddush Atzeres. So Ma Chaydish Minuyav, just like when it comes to the month, Rosh Chodesh is included as 1 day. Afatzeres Minuyaha. So too Shavuos is counted as a day. My love, Gomer Machaydish, Machadish Yom Echad, Afatzeres Yom Echad. So maybe just like Rosh Chodesh is 1 day, so Shavuos regarding Tashlumin is only 1 day. Amarav of Tizbra, does that make sense? Atu Atzeres Yom Ninan, Shavu Yom Ninan. We only count the days, not the weeks. Yom Rabbi, Mitzvah Yomi. We count the days. Except Tisbru Chamishim Yom. Mitzvah Minui Shavuoi. We count the weeks. Except Sheva Shavuos Tisbruach. So we count weeks. So the Tashlumin is 7 days, which is a week. Va'od Chag Shavuos Ksiv. Shavuos is Lashon Rabim, and it's weeks. So therefore we count for 7 days. Dibei Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov Tana Omer Kra, the pasuk says, "Ukarasem, they shall proclaim them, uvikirtzuchem, and you shall reap a harvest." So Ezachag Shata Kaire V'Kaitzer. When is the holiday in which you are calling and harvesting? Havi Omer Zechag Atzeres. This is referring to the holiday of Shavuos. On Shavuos is when this is done. So this is how we're going to learn Tashlumin for Shavuos. So Amos, when can you have both at the same time? If this pasuk is talking about that you can do the Katsira on Yom Tov, Katsira b'Yom Tov Mishari, you're not allowed to harvest on Yom Tov, that's one of the malachos. It's talking about that you can make it on a day of Tashlumin, says Rashi, it's holy, you're still allowed to do work. Even though he learned Tashlumin for Shavuos already for a different pasuk, Isuch, Rabbi Elazar and Yaakov. We need both of these opinions. We need Rabbi Elazar and Yaakov's as well as Rabbi Ishia. Why? Di mid Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Ishia habamina mata shuman shel chag hamatzo sasim b'sis malacha av tashlum yatzeres nami asur b'sis malacha. You would think, just based on that, if we're comparing that one holiday to the next, you would think that just like you're not to do malacha, namely on Chol HaMoed of Pesach, so too you can't do malacha after Shavuos. Kamashalan, the Rebbe Elazar and Yaakov, that says no, Karasim Kitzartem, it's a time of harvesting, which means it's mutter to do malacha. The Rebbe Elazar and Yaakov, so we continue to Chesed Aleph, Luyadana Kama, we would know how many days, says Rashi, Kami Yomim Yulo Tashlumin. Kamashmalan, the Rebbe Elazar Rabbi Ishia, that what does he say? Machag Hamatzo Shiva, Avkan Shiva. So this is another source. We need both of them. One to tell us the amount of days, and the other one to tell us that during those Tashlumin days, it's Mutter B'Asiyas Malacha. We'll stop here. Let's see a couple questions. Let's see. Good. Question 10. L'may Israch Yalofusa L'Tashlumin Diatzeres Kol Zayin Gam Exer Shavel Chag HaMatzos V'Gam Uksartem Ukarasim Uksartem. So Uksartem teaches us, as we saw, that's Mutter B'Asiyas Malacha. Right, that was one of the dinim that we learn out, the fact that it says that to harvest. But if you didn't learn out from the other drasha about Chag HaMatzos, then we would have the challenge because we wouldn't know how many days. We wouldn't know how many days the Tashlumin for Shavuos is. And therefore this is coming to tell us that the amount of times, the amount of days for the Tashlumin is 7. Okay, let's continue with TA 6. At Ser Shechol Yos Be'erev Shabbos of Shavuos on Friday. So Beis Shammai Erev Shabbos Beis Hillel Omrim Ein Yom Tavuach Achar Shabbos. Mahabir lahavamina maskana. So this was on Yud Zayin Mid Beis. The havamina is that maybe there's no Yom Tavuach at all. There's no din Tashlumin. Eshel Tavuach Achar Shabbos. There's no Tashlumin maskana. Ein Tzarech Tavuach Achar Shabbos El Makrivim Yom Tov. Pashat, you're allowed to be makrivit on Yom Tov because according to Beis Hillel, there's the opinion that a person is allowed to be makriv karbanos on Yom Tov. So this is on the top of Yud Zayin Mid Beis. Beis Hillel Omrim Ein Lo Yom Tavuach. So we ask, what does that mean? My love Ein Lo Yom Tavuach Klal, which means there's no Tashlumin Lo. Shein Sricha Yom Tavuach. Makamash Madamakrivin B'Yomei. That's not a problem. You can be makriv the karbanos on Yom Tov itself. Fine. Fine. Question TB. 5. Ha'im oilos re'iyah daicha Yom Tov o Shabbos. So Yom Tov, Beis Shammai says not daicha. Beis Hillel says it is daicha. Shabbos, everyone holds it is not daicha. Okay, that was TB5. Even Beis Hillel is of that opinion. So this was TB5. TB5, which is on this daf. Again, whether or not the oval oilos, Beis Hillel Omrim Mavin Shomim V'olos on Yom Tov only, but not on Shabbos. There was, let's see, Moedim. Fine. Let's see a couple Rabbi Gibber's questions. I think there are any. Then we'll stop. Let's see. Did that last time. Question 50. Ksiv b'chag hamatzah l'chag Shavuos l'chag Sukkos makshin and Shavuos l'Pesach l'inin tashlumin lama loy makshin l'Sukkos. So I wrote 7 Pesach, grab a little and don't grab more. 8 days for Sukkot, which is Tfas Merubah or Tfasta. Lama ksiv Sukkos kan kivandol iskish l'Shavuos. Compare Pesach needs Lina to stay over that night, so to Sukkos there's a chiyuv of Lina. Ad kan.